After a couple days of covering some, well, less than stellar metal entrees, hopefully we can get on track with something that's going to be a little bit more tasty to our musical palates. It's going to come in the form of the band Stam1na with their album Nocebo, or as I like to say it, Nocebo, because whenever I look at it, it reminds me of placebo, and I'm not sure what the band was going for. I'm pretty sure it's something that's native to their Finnish tongue, because this is a Finnish outfit. However, pronunciations aside, let's talk about it. Now, this is a band that's a progressive / thrash metal outfit that is able to combine a lot of these styles in a very unique little fashion and way. And they have been around in the sense of, well, mainly being known in the Finnish world and sparsely on the outside world since the first part of the 2000s. And this is an album that's starting to reach some critical acclaim here in America and abroad because of the catchiness of some of the songs on this record. And now I know what a lot of you are thinking. You heard the word catchy and you're thinking, oh man, this is something that's kind of going to be bordering on like pop metal or something like that. No, instead what I mean by catchy is that these are songs that are not so much easily accessible, more so in the fact that these are songs that are easy to get trapped into your head. These are crafted in a way where you can really kind of hear them whenever you're no longer listening to the record. It's got a very nice flow to it, and they are able to, for musical and metal-minded individuals such as you and me probably are, it just, whenever you listen to it, it has a very nice flow and a very nice feel to it. And that's the reason why they've kind of reached a lot of critical acclaim over here. And a lot of songs have been posted on Facebook and the like, so it's definitely time to examine this record. This is a record that encapsulates about 43 minutes in length. It's 10 tracks, and we have here an interesting situation. We have an interesting situation where the progressive and the thrash metal side is definitely apparent in the musicality. It's also apparent in the clean vocals that you hear on this record. So it's something where you can hear the progressive side in a lot of different things. You can hear it in the vocals, you can hear it somewhat in the music, you can hear a lot of thrashiness in some of the riffing. And then we encounter a vocal conundrum, something that's very unique about this, and that's the clean vocals, as I mentioned, have that progressive twinge to them, but what about the dirty vocals? What about the non-clean vocals? Well, there are some of the non-clean vocals, the dirty vocals, the harsher, more deathy vocals that have the traditional, marks of a death thrash band, or of a what would you call, like a technical death metal band, or a melodic death metal band. But then also there are times where the vocals get extremely chaotic, and all of a sudden you're reminiscent of a band from here in America that has a lot of popular acclaim here, but amongst Italians, perhaps the line is a little bit divided. And that's a little bit of Surge Tankin' from System of a Down. This is a really unique little comparison here. This is almost like, at times, the Finnish System of a Down vocally, which is very cool. The reason why it's very cool is this. Number one, I do enjoy some System of a Down work. In fact, I think that some of the work is pretty well done, if not a little bit short and sometimes a little bit repetitive. But whenever you aid this with kind of the chaos that's embodied within the music that Stam1na is able to put out, especially on this record, on this Nocebo, it really fits the atmosphere quite aptly. It does a very good job to kind of couple with the music and create a nice dynamisty. It all fits in there in a very nice little puzzle that is being completed by the band. So it's something that works, and it works very beautifully. Now, another thing that this record boasts is a little bit of creativity and a little bit of variety. And whenever you put those two things side by side, hand in hand, all of a sudden the record begins to become all the better. Why? Because you want to be able to vary your tone, vary your tempo, vary the pacing up a little bit, and do so not from song to song, but within the song as well. You want to have a little bit of dynamisty going on within the track, as well as have the dynamisty flow from track to track. And the fact that this band is able to do so from track to track, and also within each track, I know that's saying the word track a lot, bear with me, is definitely a positive. It's something that you want to see. It's something that you want to hear. It's something that keeps you engaged, it keeps you listening to the record, and it keeps you wondering what's going to happen next. Now, any negatives? The one negative that I will say is that while there is that variety, while there is that tempo change, sometimes it can seem a little bit like they are trapped within that style a little bit, where you could almost see a little bit more of stylistic evolution even further from where they're at. But this is something that's very nitpickety. This is something that's kind of taking it to the extreme, where you're almost, trying to cram out a negative just to, show that this is not a flawless record, which it's not. But this is something where whenever I listen to this record, I think to myself, well, you know what? They could do a little bit more there. They could do a little bit more there. But you know what? What they do and what they have is certainly adequate. In fact, it's more than adequate. This is a record that honestly surprised me. It's one that I really hadn't heard much about until the release date was coming up, and especially afterwards. It seems like that once people got the opportunity to sample this album, they definitely liked it. And it's also one that it seems like once people got to sample the band as a whole, they really started to realize that, well, it's worth all the Finnish accolades. This is a band that has been #1 on the Finnish charts before. Surprisingly, no, maybe not that much. It's definitely better than what we have over here in America. I mean, I understand that Adele's been kind of dominating things, but consider some of the other artists that have dominated the top of the Billboard 200 in the past year, so to speak. You're talking about artists such as Britney Spears. You're talking about Lady Gaga. You're talking about Lil Wayne. Over in Finland, they're talking about Stam1na a couple of years back whenever one of their albums hit #1 on the Finnish charts. So this is a band that definitely not only has the acclaim from the metal community, but also of their homeland's community. So that's another thing where you can tell that this is a band that certainly has their shit together and knows exactly what they're doing. Overall, I would have to give Nocebo, or Nocebo, however you want to pronounce it, a solid 8. I think that this is an album that really boasts a lot of positives. Not to mention, the catchiness to it is not the typical catchiness that you would be akin to thinking, but the combination of progressive and thrash, the variance of the vocals, and not to mention the potential and the endless potential that this band seems to boast for perhaps some creative tweaking or a little bit more modification, just presents a tremendous upside. There's a lot of things about this band that really can get somebody excited, especially if you're in the progressive, especially if you're in the thrash, but especially if you're just into good metal music. This is just a great album, just something that you should certainly examine and check out for yourself, and leave a comment. I want to know what you guys think about this album, so leave me a comment. coverkillernation, saying that sometimes the best things are from America. In fact, in the metal genre, those things aren't.